Ivan Katz here, and you've heard the terms understable, overstable, speed of the disc, turn, fade, all this stuff. What does it really all mean? Well, today I'm going to try to break it down in really simple, plain English and show you with the actual flight of the discs that I throw what these terms mean. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so number 8 here at Bluemont, and it's 248 feet from the white intermediate tee to the silver basket there. And it's basically straight. So I'm going to talk about understable and overstable discs as I throw them with the forehand, right hand forehand flick. Now I'm going to start with a very stable disc. It's the Cobra. Look for my whole video on the Cobra. I talk more in depth about this disc and how really useful it is in so many situations, but for now I just wanted to go straight down the fairway, and I'm going to show you that it's a stable disc, not too much turn. Pretty straight. Hit a little tree there, but very straight nonetheless. So that's the Cobra. Nice straight throw. Goes exactly where you tell it to, straight at your target, straight down the fairway. That's what you want from an approach disc, mid-range, and the Cobra is a great one, and that's what you want it to do, and that's what it did. Now here I have a really flippy Wraith, and it's flippy, and it's also pretty light. I'm trying to find a weight on it. I don't see a weight, but it's pretty light. Pretty light being probably about 150, somewhere in there. So it's flippy anyway, but when you make a disc lighter, they definitely tend to be more flippy. That means more overstable for a disc like this one, the Wraith. Now I'm going to try to use that and get it to turn over and then turn back a bit towards the basket, throwing it with a lot of hyzer. A lot of hyzer. And yes, there you go. So it went ahead and it flipped, and it did sort of S-turn at the end that gives you a lot of that distance. Came back towards the basket very well. I think it got hung up there, but it should be within putting distance, and that's what you want. So there you go. That is an understable disc, and I used it to my advantage to go ahead and get towards the basket. Now, what's next? How about another Wraith? Also very flippy. I'm going to use its turnover to get it to go ahead and do that same thing. Turn over and hopefully end up towards the basket. Not bad. Again, a little short, but I got it to flip, turn over, and S back, just like the other Wraith there, which did go a little farther. Okay, now a destroyer, and these tend to be more overstable. Overstable meaning if you throw it with forehand flick, right hand, it's going to tend, especially if you give it some hyzer, it's going to tend to curve off to the right. It doesn't turn over as much. It's not to say you can't get these discs to turn over, you can, but it's just the tendency of the disc. Now it would be the opposite if you were right hand backhand, throw it flat, and it's going to curve off to the left for you. So let's see what I can do to get this overstable destroyer towards the basket. Throw it with a little bit of maybe flat or a little bit of even anhyzer. I threw the destroyer with basically flat to a little bit of anhyzer, a little bit of lean up, and it went ahead and straightened out and curved back. A lot less left turn and a lot less flip, you'll notice, than the understable discs like the Wraiths that I threw. Okay, here's another overstable disc by Crank SS, and that I've got to throw similar to the destroyer to get it to do what the destroyer did. So a little bit of definitely flat, maybe even a little anhyzer. There you go, and just see what the overstable flight characteristic did at the end of that one. It went ahead and I fought its tendency to turn right till the very end. It did turn back to the right, and then it curved off to the right at the end. So predictable turn and fade there at the end, as overstable discs will do. I still love that Crank SS because it goes the distance, and I definitely can control its flight path. I'm still within putting distance there, so that's okay. Okay, so now a very overstable Halo Air. This one I know I have to give it some anhyzer to get it to turn back right, so hopefully I can give it enough that it'll end up close to the basket. Let's see. No, turned off way too much, too overstable. Turned way back to the right. Okay, so this Avenger SS is very understable, which means it's flippy, and it should be a challenge to get it to go close to the basket. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, just as I thought, it's very, very understable, very flippy. It turned over and just kept going to the left there, but I think I should be within putting distance with that one, Avenger SS. Okay, the Hex Rakatan, also overstable. Let's see if I can convince it to stay left enough to get towards the basket. Yeah, good throw. Should be right there. The Beast, very understable, very flippy. Let's see if I can get it to turn over and do what I want it to do. Terrible roll at the end there, but it did go ahead and turn over. Now you notice I threw the Beast very high. I've got to give that disc time to turn over and do what I want it to do. So I threw it up high, let it, gave it some hyzer, let it flip over, do its turn, and then work its way back. Unfortunately, it worked its way back too much and then rolled. But still, that's a good throw for the Beast, using its understability to make it turn and do what I wanted it to do. Okay, the Heat, which is overstable, it's a new disc. Let's see if I can get it to where I want it to go. Well, it didn't turn back enough, actually. I gave it a lot of kind of straight, kind of over anhyzer sort of turn. It turned back a bit, but not as much as I was hoping. But still, it's a pretty good throw. Still should be within putting distance with that one, just on the opposite side, left side of the basket. My Leopard here, very understable flippy disc. Let's see if I can get this to do what I want it to do. Well, turned over a bit too much and hit a tree there, but still, I was able to get it to turn over and fly basically straight towards the basket. Without that tree hit at the end, it might have curved back a little bit towards the basket, but oh well. Champion Mamba, this one can do good things. It's a bit overstable, but I think I can control it enough to get it close to the basket. It was going so good, but it hit that stump. Oh well. And lastly, the Valkyrie. I have whole videos on this disc. You should definitely have one in your bag, and hopefully I'll show you why here. Yeah, the Valkyrie does exactly what you wanted to do. Straight at the target, nice and easy. Let's go see how they all did. Okay, so results. The overstable destroyer, very close to the basket. Understable Wraith here, also pretty close. And then the Hex Rakatan, just a little back from that one. And the Beast and the Crank SS, also within putting distance here. Next over here we have the Valkyrie, the Heat, the Avenger SS, and the Cobra right here, my approach disc, along with the Wraith here, Starlight Wraith. And you can see that they're all also kind of within putting distance, maybe at the circle, pretty much just outside the circle, so 35 feet. The circle is 10 meters, 33 feet, and that means you can jump putt when you're outside of that distance. and the Leopard and the Mamba. Definitely outside of the circle, about 40 feet. So good results with all sorts of different discs, understable and overstable. Let me try to put them in. That was a hard putt through the trees. Not pretty, but in. Well, there you go. That last putt for the Halo Air Drive, the one that went way to the right because it's overstable, I used an overstable disc to go ahead and put it in. That means I threw it backhand, right-hand backhand, and I threw it with some hyzer and let it kind of straighten out and then curve back to the left and into the basket. So there you go. You can even putt using the characteristics of understable and overstable if you know what you're doing. Okay, so there you go. Understable versus overstable discs, and that should help you better understand how these discs fly and how you can use them. Obviously, if you're a right-hand forehand flicker like me and you have a dog leg left, you can use an understable disc and get it to turn around the obstacle. Opposite for overstable discs. If you have a dog leg right, you can use that for the dog leg right. Of course, it's the opposite if you're right-hand backhand. You can use an overstable disc to do a dog leg left, and an understable disc might get you to turn right for the dog leg right. So there you go. And remember, speed is something that has to do with how fast you release the disc from your arm. The higher the speed 13s, 12s, those are for more advanced players. A disc that has a speed of like 7, 8, that's a mid-range, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anybody should be able to throw those straight down the fairway with very little problem. Nice and straight and in control. So the speed is very important. Also the speed of your release. If you can get 5 miles an hour of a quicker release, in other words, if you don't run up and all of a sudden you run up and you can get 5 more miles an hour out of your disc when you release it, that can result in an extra 36 feet of distance. So that's something to think about too. But just use your own style, what works for you. Use the discs that work for you. Doesn't matter what your friend uses. Doesn't matter at all. Find out what works for you. Use different weights. The lighter the disc, oftentimes people can get more distance, but then when you get real light in the discs, like 130 grams, those have the records for distance, but they're also very understable and very flippy many times, and you can't throw them in the wind. So find out what works for you. Use these discs and go out to a field and throw with them. I have other videos on throwing in a field. Also lots of videos on disc golf techniques. Check those out elsewhere on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram and on my Facebook page as well. And of course, subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm Ivan Katz.